The snow had stopped falling an hour ago, leaving the forest road silent except for her labored breathing and the distant howl of border wolves. Kelly Dwyer lay in a snowdrift, her white ceremonial gown soaked crimson, her left arm shattered, her body poisoned with wolfsbane that kept her wolf caged and screaming. Her betrothed, the man she'd trusted since childhood, had thrown her from the carriage and left her to die because she'd discovered his family's terrible secret. She was dying, and no one was coming. But someone did come. Someone who would change everything. The massive black wolf that emerged from the tree line was easily the size of a small horse, an alpha. Even through her fading vision, Kelly recognized the scent, cedar and ash, the signature of the Northern Kingdoms. And when those silver eyes locked onto hers, she felt it. The pull, the recognition, the bond that shouldn't exist. Blake Jordan, the Alpha King whose father her pack had murdered. Yet the wolf sworn to destroy everyone she loved, standing over her now with those eyes widening in horrified recognition. Her fated mate was her greatest enemy. If you want to know what impossible choice he made in that frozen forest, the choice that would ignite a war and shatter 3 kingdoms, keep watching, because this story of enemies, mates, and prophecies is just beginning. And don't forget to smash the like button. Chapter 1. The Enemy's Mercy. The cold had stopped hurting 20 minutes ago. Kelly knew what that meant. Her body was surrendering. The wolfsbane in her system kept her wolf trapped, unable to heal, unable to shift, unable to do anything but whimper helplessly in the back of her mind. "I'm sorry," she thought to her wolf. "I'm so sorry." 3 days ago, she'd been preparing for her mating ceremony with Sean Delgado, the beta of Crescent Valley Pack. She'd known him her entire life, trusted him, maybe even loved him in the comfortable way you love someone familiar and safe. Then she'd found the ledgers, hidden in his father's study during what was supposed to be a pleasant visit to finalize ceremony arrangements, 3 red leather volumes documenting 5 years of systematic theft. Widow pensions diverted, orphan funds embezzled, elderly care investments that never existed. Dozens of pack members robbed blind while the Delgado family lived in luxury. When she'd confronted Sean, demanding he make it right before she'd accept his mark, he'd smiled. That same charming smile he'd used when he proposed. "You're very noble, Kelly," he'd said, "and very foolish." The next morning, he'd suggested a romantic carriage ride to clear the air before the ceremony. She'd believed him because she'd wanted to believe him. Fool. Now she lay dying on what she'd learned too late was the border between Crescent Valley and the Northern Kingdoms. Sean had planned it perfectly. But when she didn't return, he'd organize a search in the wrong direction and eventually declare it a tragic accident. The sound of massive paws pounding through snow made Kelly's eyes snap open. Not hoofbeats. Paws. Her wolf whimpered, trying to respond, but the wolfsbane kept her caged. Kelly tried to call out, but her voice was barely a whisper, her throat too cold, too damaged. "Please," she thought desperately, "please see me." The massive black wolf emerged from the tree line, and even through her fading vision, Kelly could tell, an alpha. The sheer power radiating from him made the air itself feel heavier. His eyes, molten silver, locked onto her, and even through the wolfsbane haze, she felt it, the pull, the recognition, the undeniable universe-mandated connection that every wolf knew existed but most never found. No, not him, anyone but him. The wolf shifted mid-stride, bones cracking and reforming in seconds. The transformation was fluid, powerful, and controlled in a way that spoke of centuries of alpha bloodline. The man who stood before her was naked, steam rising from his skin in the cold air. He moved toward a pack stashed in a nearby tree, pulling out emergency clothes with practiced efficiency. Kelly's fading vision focused on his face as he dressed. Dark pants, a heavy shirt left unbuttoned, sharp features, dark hair touched with silver at the temples despite looking no older than 30. Scars across his knuckles that spoke of battles won. Blake Jordan, the Alpha King of the Northern Kingdoms. The man whose father her pack had killed 20 years ago in a border dispute that had never been resolved. The man who'd sworn at his father's funeral to destroy every Crescent Valley wolf alive. the man standing over her now with those silver eyes widening in recognition. "You," he growled. Kelly saw the war happening behind those eyes. Hatred, 20 years of it bred into bone and blood. Duty, an alpha's obligation to protect wolves in his territory. And something else. Something that made his wolf surge forward, made his hands clench, made every muscle in his body go rigid with denial. The mate bond. She was dying, and the moon goddess had chosen this moment to reveal that her fated mate, the one wolf in all the world made specifically for her, was her pack's greatest enemy. Blake stood frozen, staring down at her. Kelly could smell the conflict rolling off him in waves, cedar and ash mixed with fury and confusion. "Leave me," she wanted to say. "Just leave me and let it end." But her wolf, even poisoned and dying, surged forward with the last of her strength, reached for him through the bond that was forming, whether either of them wanted it or not. "Mate," her wolf whispered. "Mate, save us." Blake's jaw clenched so hard Kelly heard his teeth grind. His eyes flashed between silver and human brown, and his wolf fighting for control. Then he made his choice. Chapter 2. The Devil's Bargain. Blake knelt beside her, his large hands surprisingly gentle as they moved over her injuries. Professional, clinical, checking for broken bones, bleeding, signs of internal damage. "Wolfsbane," he muttered, catching the scent even through the blood and snow. His head snapped up, eyes scanning the forest. "Who did this?" Kelly tried to answer, but only a weak sound escaped. "Don't talk." His hands moved to her face, tilting her head carefully. "Can you hear me?" Blink once for yes." She blinked. "Good, you're in bad shape. Wolfsbane, broken arm, possibly broken ribs, hypothermia." His voice was clipped, controlled. "I'm going to lift you. It's going to hurt." He didn't wait for acknowledgement. He simply slid his arms under her with surprising care and lifted. Kelly gasped as pain exploded through her body. Her vision went white, then gray, then started to fade entirely. "No." His voice cut through the darkness. "You will not die. Do you hear me?" That's an alpha command." The command in his voice, the undeniable weight of an alpha's will, crashed into her like a physical force. Her wolf, even poisoned, responded, submitted, fought to obey. Kelly's eyes flew open, her breath coming in painful gasps. "That's it," Blake said, carrying her toward where his wolf must have stashed supplies. "Stay with me, little wolf. You don't get to die on my land." "Yeah, that's not how this ends." He positioned her carefully on a massive black stallion that stood perfectly still, despite the scent of blood and wolfsbane. Blake mounted behind her, one arm holding her secure against his chest. His scent wrapped around her, cedar and ash, and something wild that her wolf recognized on an instinctive level. "Mate," her wolf sighed. "Safe. Mate will protect." "The nearest settlement is 15 kilometers, Blake said, his voice rumbling against her back. Can you stay conscious that long?" "I'll try," Kelly whispered. "Try harder. I didn't find you just to watch you die." The ride blurred into fragments, the warmth of his body behind her, the steady rhythm of the horse, his voice occasionally asking questions to keep her awake. "What's your name?" "Kelly." "Who did this to you?" She couldn't answer that one, couldn't form the words. "Stay with me, Kelly." She must have lost consciousness despite his efforts, because the next thing she knew, she was being carried into warmth and light. Voices surrounded her, a woman's cry of alarm, Blake's steady commands cutting through the chaos. "Send for a healer, hot water, blankets now, and someone bring me wolfsbane antidote, now." Kelly was laid on something soft, a bed. Hands removed her wet clothing, replaced it with dry linen. The healer came, his touch impersonal as he set her arm, bound her ribs, stitched the wound on her temple. Through it all, and she heard Blake's voice in the background, speaking to the innkeeper. "She'll need the room for at least a week. Send the bill to Thornridge Manor, and send word to no one without my permission. Is that clear?" Thornridge Manor, the Alpha King's seat of power, the fortress that had stood for 300 years as the symbol of Northern Kingdom strength, the last place any Crescent Valley wolf should ever go. Kelly tried to protest, but darkness was pulling her under. The last thing she felt was a gentle hand touching her hair, and a voice, rough with emotions she couldn't name, whispering something she couldn't quite hear. Then, nothing. Kelly woke to firelight and silence. The room was small, but clean. The bed soft beneath her back. Her left arm was splinted and bound, her ribs wrapped tight enough to make breathing shallow but manageable. Her head throbbed with a dull ache, but the sharp, poisonous burn of wolfsbane was finally fading. She was warm, alive, and completely unsure if that was a blessing or a curse. "You're awake." Kelly turned her head carefully toward the voice. Blake sat in a chair beside the window, watching her with those pale silver eyes that seemed to see too much. In the firelight, his features were sharp, strong jaw, straight nose, dark hair touched with silver at the temples. He wore no coat now, just a white shirt and dark vest, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Yet he looked like a man who had better things to do than sit vigil over a stranger. Except she wasn't a stranger. Not anymore. The mate bond hummed between them, quieter than it should be because neither had accepted it, but present nonetheless, an invisible thread connecting them whether they wanted it or not. "How long?" Kelly asked, her voice rough from disuse. 2 days. The healer says you're fortunate. Add another hour in this cold and we'd be having a different conversation. "Thank you." The words felt inadequate. "You saved my life." "Yes." He stood, walking to the small table beside her bed where a pitcher of water waited. He poured a glass and helped her sit up enough to drink, his hands steady and impersonal. "Now you're going to tell me why I had to." Kelly drank slowly, buying time. The water was cool, soothing her throat, but it couldn't wash away the dread settling in her stomach. I don't understand," she said finally. "You were left in the middle of a forest road during a snowstorm." He set the glass down, his gaze never leaving her face. "Your injuries suggest you were thrown from a moving carriage. Someone wanted you dead, or at least gone." He crossed his arms. "Who?" She could lie. She should lie. But what was the point? He'd find out eventually. Alphas always did. "Sean Delgado," she said quietly. "Beta of Crescent Valley Pack." Something flickered in Blake's eyes. Recognition, interest, and underneath it, a cold fury that made Kelly's wolf whimper. "You're the Crescent Valley bride," he said. It wasn't a question. The one who disappeared 3 days before the mating ceremony. "Did they search?" Kelly laughed bitterly. "Your beta claimed you ran away, got cold feet about mating above your station." Blake's eyes narrowed. "But that's not what happened, is it?" Kelly looked at the fire, in watching the flames dance. "I found ledgers, hidden in his father's study during what was supposed to be a pleasant visit to finalize ceremony arrangements, numbers that didn't match, investments that didn't exist." She took a breath, feeling the anger rise again. Dozens of pack members, widows whose mates died in border skirmishes, orphans left with nothing, elderly wolves who couldn't hunt anymore, all of them being systematically robbed. Her voice hardened. "Yeah, when I told Sean I couldn't accept his mark unless he made it right, he decided I was a problem that needed to disappear." "And you believed he'd take you for a romantic carriage ride after that conversation?" "I wanted to believe people could change." Kelly met his eyes. "Clearly, I was wrong." Blake studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was a small, cold thing that didn't reach his eyes. You threatened to expose the Delgados." "Yes." "You have proof?" "I saw the ledgers. I can identify which investments are fraudulent. I know names, dates, amounts." She paused. "But I don't have documentation. Sean has that." "But you remember enough to destroy them. If anyone would believe me." Kelly laughed again, the sound hollow. "Who would? I'm a nobody with no family connections and no credibility. Sean will say I'm lying out of spite, that I couldn't handle mating a beta and ran away, then made up stories when I was found." Blake walked back to his chair, settling into it with the grace of a predator at rest. "What if someone with credibility backed your claims? Like who?" "Like me." Kelly's heart beat faster. "Why would you do that?" "Because I've been trying to destroy Crescent Valley Pack for 20 years. Chapter 3. The Seer's Impossible Warning. Blake's voice was quiet, controlled, and utterly certain. "They killed my father in a border dispute they started. then blamed him for the violence. They've blocked every treaty I've proposed, undermined every alliance I've built, and cost me more than you can imagine." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You have information I need, and you need protection they can't penetrate. We can help each other." "What are you suggesting?" "Accept my mark. Become my Luna Queen." The room seemed to tilt. Kelly stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious about strategy." His expression didn't change. "You accept my mark. You become Luna Queen of the Northern Kingdoms. Untouchable. Under my protection, Sean can't reach you. You help me build a case against his pack. Testimony, details, everything you remember. We destroy them together." "That's insane." "That's practical." He stood. "Yeah, you have no family who can shelter you. If you try to go home, Sean will find a way to finish what he started. If you try to disappear, you'll spend your life looking over your shoulder." His gaze held hers. "But as my mate, as my Luna, you're beyond his reach." Kelly tried to sit up fully, gasping as pain shot through her ribs. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." He walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered landscape. "You chose conscience over safety." You threatened a powerful family because it was right. You survived being left to die." He glanced back at her. "You took action. I respect that. But you don't love me." "No." His honesty was brutal. "And you don't love me. This isn't about romance, Kelly. It's about survival and strategy." He turned to face her fully. "I'll have papers drawn up. You'll have your own rooms in Thornridge Manor. We'll maintain separate lives. In public, we'll play the role of a respectable mating. In private, us will work to dismantle Crescent Valley piece by piece. And if I refuse, then I'll pay for your recovery here and leave you to your fate." His voice was matter-of-fact. "But know this. Sean believes you're dead. The moment you surface anywhere, that changes. He'll come for you. And next time, I won't be there to find you." The fire crackled in the silence. Kelly thought of Sean's face as he pushed her from the carriage. The cold, the certainty that she would die alone and unmourned. She thought of the families being robbed, the widows losing everything, the orphan pups who'd inherit nothing because of Delgado greed. And she thought of the man standing by the window, offering her a devil's bargain wrapped in protection. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I want your word that you'll pursue justice for the families they've harmed. Not just revenge, justice." Blake turned to face her fully. You're negotiating terms while lying in a sickbed with broken bones. Those are my terms." Something that might have been respect crossed his face. "Agreed. Justice, not just revenge. Anything else?" "I want to know what you get out of this, beyond political victory." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "The Delgados killed someone I cared about 5 years ago. My younger sister, Miriam. They made it look like an accident, a carriage going off a bridge during a storm, and I've never been able to prove it." His voice remained steady, but his eyes were ice. "So yes, Kelly, I want revenge, but I'll settle for justice if that's what it takes to destroy them." Kelly understood revenge. She understood wanting someone to pay for their cruelty. "One more condition," she said. "If at any point I become a liability to you, if this arrangement puts you in danger, you let me go. No argument." "That won't happen. Promise me, anyway." Blake crossed the room. Standing beside her bed, he extended his hand. "I promise. Do we have an agreement?" She looked at his hand. Strong, scarred across the knuckles, belonging to a man who'd just offered to make her his Luna Queen so they could destroy their common enemies. She'd been left in the cold to die. Now she was being offered a chance to fight back. The mate bond pulsed between them, urging her to take his hand, to accept what the moon goddess had apparently decided was her fate. Kelly took his hand. We have an agreement." His grip was firm, warm. "Then rest. When you're well enough to travel, I'll take you to Thornridge. We have work to do." He released her hand and moved toward the door. "Your Majesty?" she called after him. The formal title felt strange on her tongue. He paused, looking back. Why were you on that road in the middle of a storm? For a moment, his expression shifted, something almost vulnerable beneath the controlled surface. I was coming back from my northern estates. That road is the fastest route, even in winter. He opened the door. I don't believe in fate, Kelly, but I'm grateful I chose speed over comfort that day. Then he was gone, leaving Kelly alone with the fire and the weight of the choice she'd just made. The next morning, Kelly woke to find a woman sitting in the chair Blake had occupied. She was elderly, with steel gray hair and sharp eyes that assessed Kelly with clinical precision. I'm Eula Leonard, the woman said. The Alpha King's chief healer. I'm here to check your progress. Eula's examination was thorough and efficient. When she finished, she nodded with satisfaction. You're healing well. The wolfsbane is almost completely purged from your system. Another 3 days and you should be able to travel. Thank you, Kelly said. Eula began packing her supplies, then paused. His Majesty asked me to give you this. She handed Kelly a small leather-bound book. He said you should read it before you reach Thornridge. After Eula left, Kelly opened the book, finding pages filled with precise, angular handwriting. Kelly, you'll find the next 6 weeks challenging. I'm not a patient teacher, and I have high expectations, but I believe you're capable of meeting them. These pages contain everything you need to know about Thornridge, its history, its laws, the role you'll play. Study them. Your survival depends on understanding this world. We'll dine together each evening at 8. Be punctual. We'll use that time to discuss your progress and coordinate our strategy against Crescent Valley. Remember our agreement. You help me destroy them. I keep you safe. Everything else is negotiable. Blake Kelly closed the book and stared at the ceiling. 6 weeks to learn an entire kingdom's history and customs. 6 weeks to become someone worthy of standing beside an Alpha King. 6 weeks before she'd face the wolves who'd tried to kill her. And she'd been left in the cold to die by a man who'd pretended to care. Now she'd bound herself to a man who'd never pretended anything. Somehow that felt like the more honest danger. On the 3rd day, as Eula had predicted, Kelly was declared fit to travel. Blake arrived at dawn with a carriage emblazoned with the Northern Kingdom crest, a silver wolf howling at a crescent moon. Ready? He asked, offering his hand to help her into the carriage. As I'll ever be. The journey took most of the day. Kelly watched the countryside roll past while her ribs ached with every bump in the road. Blake rode on horseback alongside the carriage, checking on her periodically through the window. As the sun began to set, they crested a hill, and Thornridge Manor came into view. Kelly had expected something grand. She hadn't expected a fortress. Gray stone walls rose 4 stories, topped with crenellations like an ancient castle. And narrow windows stared out over manicured grounds that stretched for miles. The main building was flanked by 2 wings, creating a U-shape around a central courtyard where she could see wolves in human form, training with weapons. Everything about it spoke of power, age, and absolute control. It's beautiful, she said when Blake appeared at the carriage window. It's defensible, he corrected, opening the door. My family built it during the Great Pack Wars 300 years ago. We've held it ever since. He offered his hand. Can you walk? I can try. His hands were steady on her waist as he helped her down. The moment her feet touched the ground, the manor's main doors opened and pack members began streaming out. Kelly froze. I thought you said this would be private. The marking ceremony will be private, but the pack needs to meet their new Luna. He offered his arm. Remember, you're not a victim here. You're the woman who survived what should have killed her. Stand like it. She took his arm, drawing on every lesson her mother had ever taught her about posture and dignity. Her ribs screamed in protest, but she kept her spine straight, her head high. The pack assembled in 2 lines, at least 40 wolves, from ancient warriors with battle scars to young pups barely old enough to shift. At the front stood Eula, her eyes sharp and assessing. Your Majesty, Eula said with a precise bow. Welcome home. Thank you, Eula. Blake nodded. This is Kelly Dwyer. She'll be Luna Queen within the week. She's recovering from an attack and requires care. See to it. Eula's sharp eyes took in Kelly's splinted arm, the fading bruises on her temple, the careful way she held herself. Something like approval flickered across her weathered face. "Of course, Your Majesty. Welcome to Thornridge, Miss Dwyer. We are honored to serve you." "Thank you, Eula," Kelly said, keeping her voice steady despite the pain and overwhelming attention. "I look forward to learning from you all." It was a simple response, diplomatic and appropriate. But Eula's expression softened slightly, and several of the younger wolves exchanged approving glances. Blake released Kelly's arm. "Eula will show you to your quarters. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we discuss arrangements." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the manor like he'd already forgotten she existed. Eula cleared her throat. "This way, miss." As they entered the manor, and Kelly felt the weight of what she'd agreed to settle over her shoulders. She was in enemy territory now, bound to a man who saw her as a weapon, preparing to destroy the pack she'd once called home. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and uncertainty, something else stirred. A hunger for justice, a determination to make them pay, and the first stirrings of something she didn't yet have a name for, something that felt dangerously like hope. Chapter 4. The Seer's Warning. The suite Eula led her to was larger than Kelly's entire childhood home. A sitting room with a fireplace already crackling with warmth. A bedroom with a four-poster bed draped in deep blue fabric. A dressing room with empty wardrobes waiting to be filled. And a private bathing room with a copper tub large enough to swim in. "It's overwhelming," Kelly admitted. "You'll adjust. Most do." Eula moved to the fireplace, adjusting the logs. The Alpha King has ordered a seamstress to call tomorrow. You'll need appropriate gowns for your role. He's also arranged for instructors, pack law, territory management, combat training. You have 6 weeks before the first Inter-Kingdom Council meeting where you'll be presented as Luna Queen. 6 weeks to become a Luna Queen. 6 weeks to look like one, Eula corrected, as if reading her thoughts. Being one takes longer, but if I may speak frankly, miss, the Alpha King doesn't make careless decisions. If he brought you here, he believes you can do this. Don't prove him wrong. After Eula left, Kelly sank onto the edge of the bed, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of exhaustion. Her arm throbbed, her ribs ached, her head pounded. But she was alive, warm, safe. Through the window, she could see the forest in the distance, dark trees against a darkening sky. Somewhere out there was the road where she'd nearly died. She startled her. "Come in?" A young wolf startled her. "Come in!" A young wolf entered, maybe 19 or 20, carrying a tray. Her eyes were downcast, respectful. An Omega, Kelly realized. A wolf without rank or dominance, suited for service roles. "Eula sent dinner, miss, and the Alpha King asked me to give you this." She handed Kelly a sealed letter. And after the Omega left, Kelly opened it, finding a single line in Blake's precise handwriting. 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, my private dining room. Don't be late. Kelly smiled despite herself. Not even a please, just commands and expectations. She ate mechanically, her mind already racing through implications. 6 weeks to learn an entire kingdom's history and customs. 6 weeks to become someone worthy of standing beside an Alpha King. 6 weeks before she'd face the wolves who'd tried to kill her. And somewhere in those 6 weeks, she'd have to accept Blake's mark, bind herself to him permanently through the mate bond, become his Luna in every way that mattered. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like stepping into armor. The next morning, Kelly woke to find new clothes laid out, simple but well-made, appropriate for a Luna in training. She dressed carefully, favoring her injured arm, and made her way downstairs following Eula's directions from the previous night. The manor was even more imposing in daylight. Stone corridors lined with tapestries depicting battle scenes, portraits of stern-faced alphas stretching back generations. Everything spoke of history, power, and warriors who'd held this fortress for 300 years. She found the training yard where Eula had said breakfast would be served for pack members who preferred to eat communally. Dozens of wolves were already gathered, warriors comparing techniques, mothers watching pups play, elders sharing stories. Several heads turned as Kelly entered. Conversations paused. She felt the weight of assessment, curiosity, and in some cases, suspicion. Then a massive warrior with scars crossing his face approached. His eyes were kind despite his intimidating appearance. "Miss Dwyer, I'm Rodney Farley, head of combat training." His voice was surprisingly gentle. His Majesty asked me to begin your defensive training this afternoon. But first," he gestured to the food tables, "you should eat. You'll need your strength." "Thank you, Rodney." As she filled a plate, more wolves approached, introducing themselves, offering welcome, some genuine, some reserved, but all respectful. Kelly was halfway through breakfast when a commotion at the gate caught everyone's attention. A wolf staggered through, female, ancient, her white hair wild, and her eyes clouded with the milky gaze of the blind. But she moved with purpose, her staff tapping against the stones. "Where is she?" the old woman demanded, her voice carrying across the yard. "Where is the dead bride who breathes?" The training yard went silent. Blake appeared from the manor, his expression unreadable. "Laverne, I didn't send for you. The moon goddess sent for me." Laverne Chavez. Kelly knew the name now, the most powerful seer in 3 kingdoms. She showed me visions 3 nights ago, visions of blood and prophecy and a choice that will break the world. Laverne's clouded eyes turned unerringly toward Kelly, as if she could see despite her blindness. "There you are, the third-born daughter of the cursed line." Ice flooded Kelly's veins. "I don't understand." "Your grandmother made a deal with the moon goddess 60 years ago." Laverne moved closer, her staff tapping. Power for her descendants, but at a price. Every 3rd generation, one must die in the snow for the bloodline to continue. You died, child. You were supposed to stay dead. The seer's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every ear. By saving you, the Alpha King broke the deal. Now all supernatural bonds are fracturing. If you don't complete the sacrifice, every mating bond in 3 kingdoms will shatter. "That's enough," Blake said, his voice carrying alpha command. But Laverne wasn't finished. Her clouded eyes leaked tears that looked like silver in the morning light. 3 paths before you, dead bride. 3 choices, all with blood." She raised gnarled fingers. "Die as you should have, and the bonds hold. The kingdoms stand. But you are gone forever." A second finger. "Break your bloodline's curse. Find the truth your grandmother hid. Save yourself, but the cost." She shook her head. "The cost is terrible." A third finger. "Refuse both. Let the bonds fracture. I'll watch as mates forget their loves, as families crumble, as the very foundation of wolf society collapses into chaos." Laverne's staff struck the ground 3 times. "War is coming. Not the war of armies, but something worse. A war of broken bonds and shattered souls. And you, child, you are the key to everything." Then the seer collapsed. Rodney and 2 other warriors caught her before she hit the ground. Blake was at her side in seconds, checking her pulse. "She's alive, just exhausted. Get her to a guest room. Send for Eula." As the warriors carried Laverne away, Blake turned to the assembled pack. His voice was calm, controlled, brooking no argument. "Laverne Chavez is known for dramatics. Whatever prophecy she believes she saw, we will investigate carefully and rationally. In the meantime," his gaze swept across every face, "Miss Dwyer is under my protection. Anyone who threatens her because of a seer's ravings will answer to me personally." "Oh, is that understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Your Majesty," rippled through the crowd. But as the pack dispersed, Kelly saw the looks, the fear, the uncertainty, the whispers already starting. "Cursed. Broken deal. Bonds will shatter." Blake appeared at her side. "My study. Now." She followed him through corridors that suddenly felt less like a fortress and more like a maze. He led her to a private room lined with books and maps, shut the door, and turned to face her. Tell me everything you know about your grandmother." Kelly's mind raced. "She died when I was 10. I barely remember her. She was powerful, respected. My mother said she could see the future sometimes, but nothing like—" "Did she ever mention a deal? A sacrifice? Anything about your bloodline?" "No. Nothing, I swear." Blake paced, his movements controlled but agitated. Through the mate bond, still forming, still new, Kelly felt his frustration, his fear beneath the calm exterior. Laverne doesn't make mistakes, he said quietly. When she prophesies, it comes true. Always. He stopped pacing, facing her. If what she said is accurate, if mating bonds across 3 kingdoms are fracturing because I saved you, then you should have left me to die. The words came out harder than Kelly intended. Is that what you're thinking? No. His voice was sharp. I'm thinking we need to find out what your grandmother did and how to undo it. Majesty, we have a problem. 3 separate problems. The first is that the bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The second is that the bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The third is that the bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between the 2 of you is weakening. The bond between Majesty. We have a problem. 3 separate reports just came in from border territories. Mated pairs reporting disturbances. Bonds feeling weaker. One couple said they couldn't feel each other at all for nearly an hour. Blake's jaw clenched. How widespread? Unknown, but if the pattern continues, Eula didn't finish. She didn't need to. Kelly felt her stomach turn. This is my fault. The prophecy said you have 3 choices, Blake interrupted. We're going to find a 4th one, a way to break the curse without you dying and without the bonds collapsing. He looked at Eula. Send ravens to every territory. I need information on historical deals with the moon goddess, bloodline curses, anything related to sacrificial agreements. And find someone who knew Kelly's grandmother. Demanding your presence at an emergency Inter-Kingdom Council meeting in 2 weeks. They know Miss Dwyer is alive, and they're calling for her immediate return to face charges of theft and pack betrayal. Silence filled the study. Sean, Kelly whispered. He knows I survived. Of course he does. Blake's voice was ice. And now he's going on the offensive, accusing you before you can accuse him. He turned to Eula. Send our response. Tell them the Northern Kingdoms will attend the council meeting, and that Luna Queen-to-be Kelly will be making her own accusations regarding attempted murder and systematic embezzlement. Your Majesty, if we attend that meeting with bonds fracturing across the kingdoms, Eula's meaning was clear. Then we have 2 weeks to either break the curse or hide the fracturing. Blake moved to his desk, pulling out maps and documents. And we have 2 weeks to build an ironclad case against the Delgados. He looked at Kelly, and through the bond, she felt his determination, his refusal to let her die, his absolute conviction that they would find another way. You're not dying in the snow, Kelly. Not for prophecy, not for kingdoms, not for anything. We'll break this curse together. And if we can't? His eyes held hers. Then I'll burn down 3 kingdoms before I let them take you. It was madness. It was beautiful, and it terrified Kelly how much she wanted to believe him. Chapter 5. The Beta's Betrayal. The next 2 weeks blurred into a relentless schedule of training, study, and investigation. Every morning, Rodney taught Kelly defensive combat, how to fight dirty, how to use her smaller size as an advantage. Every afternoon, Eula drilled her on pack law and kingdom politics. Every evening, she dined with Blake, discussing strategy and reviewing evidence against the Delgados. And every night, reports came in of more bonds weakening. By day 5, 12 couples had reported disturbances. By day 8, 37. By day 12, over 100 mated pairs across 3 kingdoms were experiencing what the healers called bond degradation, a fading of the supernatural connection that held wolf mates together. Panic was starting to spread. Blake had sent investigators to Crescent Valley, digging into Kelly's family history. What they'd discovered made everything worse. Her grandmother, Sonia Maynard, Jed had indeed made a deal with the moon goddess. Desperate to save her dying mate, she'd offered a terrible bargain: power for her bloodline in exchange for a sacrifice every 3rd generation. One daughter, left to die in the snow, her death feeding the magic that kept supernatural bonds strong across the kingdoms. Kelly's mother had been 2nd generation. Kelly was 3rd. She was supposed to die, and her death was supposed to sustain the very fabric of wolf society. There has to be another way, Kelly said for the 100th time, staring at the ancient texts spread across Blake's study table. Some loophole, some alternative sacrifice. We're running out of time. Blake's voice was tight with frustration. The council meeting is in 2 days. If we show up with bonds still fracturing and no solution... He didn't finish. They'll demand I complete the sacrifice, Kelly finished quietly. Yet they'll kill me to save the bonds. No one is killing you. Blake's voice carried absolute conviction. I'll declare war on the entire council before I let that happen. You can't go to war with everyone. Watch me. Through the bond, stronger now after 2 weeks of proximity, Kelly felt his protective fury, his absolute refusal to lose her. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like the only solid thing in a world fracturing apart. A knock at the door interrupted them. Enter. Alex Harding stepped in. Blake's beta, 2nd in command, the wolf Kelly had come to trust over the past 2 weeks. He'd been helpful, supportive, always ready with advice or assistance. Now his expression was carefully neutral. Your Majesty, I have news from the border territories. Alex's voice was measured. 3 more couples reporting bond failure, complete severing in 2 cases. Blake's jaw clenched. And how long before the severing becomes permanent? The healers estimate we have less than a week before the damage is irreversible. Less than a week before, hundreds of mated pairs forgot they ever loved each other, before families crumbled, before the foundation of wolf society collapsed. There's one more thing, Alex said, his tone shifting slightly. A messenger arrived from Crescent Valley. Personal letter for Miss Dwyer. He handed Kelly a sealed envelope. Oh, she recognized Sean's handwriting on the front and felt her stomach turn. Open it, Blake said quietly. Kelly broke the seal with trembling fingers and read, Kelly, I know you're alive. I know you're with him. And I know about the prophecy. Come back to me. Accept my mark as originally planned. I'll withdraw all charges. We'll tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. The mating ceremony will proceed, and you'll complete the sacrifice as your bloodline demands. Refuse. And I'll make sure the council knows you're choosing personal survival over the stability of 3 kingdoms. Every severed bond, every broken family, every shattered life, all of it will be on your conscience. You have until the council meeting to decide. Save yourself and destroy thousands of families. Or save the kingdoms and die as you should have. Choose wisely. Sean Kelly's hands shook as she set the letter down. He's making me the villain. Kelly looked at the reports scattered on the table. He's manipulating the situation. Blake's voice was cold, using fear to force your hand. But he's not wrong. Kelly looked at the reports scattered across the desk. Every day I stay alive, more bonds fail, more families suffer. Maybe. Don't. Blake crossed to her in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. Don't you dare say it. You're not going back to him. You're not completing any sacrifice. We will find another way. What if there isn't one? Then the bonds fail. His eyes blazed. I won't trade your life for theirs. Not even for thousands. Not even for everyone. Through the bond, Kelly felt the depth of his conviction. It terrified and comforted her in equal measure. Your Majesty, Alex said carefully. Perhaps we should consider— No. Blake's voice cracked like a whip. All options, Alex continued, his tone still measured. Miss Dwyer's sacrifice would solve multiple problems. The bonds would stabilize. Crescent Valley would withdraw their accusations. And frankly, Your Majesty, your position with the Council would strengthen significantly if you demonstrated willingness to put kingdom stability above personal attachment. Silence filled the study. Kelly felt something cold settle in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying, Alex met her gaze, and that sometimes leaders must make difficult choices for the greater good. Your grandmother understood that. Your bloodline has been feeding the mate bonds for 2 generations. Refusing to continue that legacy is selfish. Get out. Blake's voice was deadly quiet. Your Majesty, I'm only trying to— I said get out. Alpha command crashed through the room like a physical wave. Alex bowed stiffly and left. After the door closed, Blake turned to Kelly. Don't listen to him. He doesn't understand. He understands perfectly. Kelly's voice was hollow. He's saying what everyone's thinking, that I should die to save them, that my life matters less than the stability of the kingdoms. Your life matters to me. Blake cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. More than kingdoms, more than bonds, more than anything. You barely know me. I know enough. His thumb brushed her cheek. I know you're brave and stubborn and righteous to a fault. I know you make me want things I'd given up on, and I know— He stopped, struggling with words. What? Kelly whispered. I know I'm falling in love with you. The admission seemed torn from him. And I won't lose you. Not to prophecy, not to duty, not to anything. Before Kelly could respond, an alarm bell began ringing, the emergency signal. Blake's head snapped toward the window. That's the southern gate. They ran through the corridors, emerging into chaos. Warriors were mobilizing. Pack members rushing to defensive positions. And at the gate, Crescent Valley Wolves, Rodney shouted over the commotion. At least 30 of them, demanding Miss Dwyer's immediate surrender. Kelly's heart stopped. Sean. He came himself. Blake's voice was ice. How bold. They reached the gate where Sean Delgado stood with 29 warriors behind him, all wearing Crescent Valley colors. He looked exactly as Kelly remembered, handsome, charming, and utterly cold beneath the surface. His eyes found her immediately, and he smiled. Kelly, you're looking well, much better than when I last saw you. No thanks to you. Her voice was steady, despite the fear coursing through her. That was unfortunate business. Sean's tone was almost apologetic. But you understand why it was necessary. You were threatening pack stability, threatening my family. What choice did I have? You could have made things right instead of trying to murder me. Murder is such a harsh word. He shrugged. I prefer permanent solution to a temporary problem. His gaze shifted to Blake. Your Majesty, I'm here to formally request the return of my betrothed. She has obligations to fulfill, a prophecy to complete. The stability of 3 kingdoms depends on her cooperation. She's not your betrothed, Blake said coldly. She's my intended Luna Queen. Sean's smile widened. Interesting timing. You just happened to find her, save her, and decide to mate with her. All within weeks of discovering she's the key to the mate bond stability. How convenient. What are you implying? I'm implying that perhaps you saved her not out of compassion, but out of strategy. Keep her alive, use her as leverage against Crescent Valley, and when the bonds start failing, Sean gestured broadly. You're the hero who offers the solution. Her sacrifice at a time of your choosing, with the council grateful for your difficult decision. The accusation hung in the air, poisonous and calculated. That's not, Kelly started. Isn't it? Sean cut her off. Think about it, Kelly. He's the Alpha King. Everything he does is strategic. Every alliance, every decision, every relationship. His voice turned pitying. Did you really think he saved you out of kindness? Hey, that he wants to mate you out of love? You're a weapon to him, a tool, and when you're no longer useful... Enough! Blake's alpha command silenced Sean mid-sentence. You have 10 seconds to leave my territory before I consider your presence an act of war. I'll leave. Sean raised his hands in mock surrender. But know this, the council meeting is tomorrow. Every alpha will be there, every Luna. All of them watching bonds fracture while you hide the solution behind your gates. He looked directly at Kelly. They'll demand your sacrifice, Kelly. And when they do, will your precious Alpha King still protect you? Or will he make the strategic choice? Sean mounted his horse, his warriors following suit. But before riding away, he called back one final time. I'll see you at the council, Kelly, one way or another. This ends tomorrow. As the Crescent Valley wolves disappeared into the forest, Kelly felt her world tilting. Sean's words had planted seeds of doubt, not about Blake's feelings. She could feel those through the bond, real and growing stronger, but about the impossible situation they were in. Tomorrow they'd face the council. Tomorrow every alpha in 3 kingdoms would demand answers, would demand she complete the sacrifice to save the bonds. And tomorrow? You. About what you mean to me. I know. You. About what you mean to me. I know. Kelly took his hand. But he's right about tomorrow. They'll demand my death, and you... Her voice broke. You're the Alpha King. You can't go to war with the entire council. You can't sacrifice your kingdom's future for one wolf. Watch me. His fingers tightened on hers. I told you. I'll burn down 3 kingdoms before I let them take you. Through the bond, Kelly felt his absolute conviction. And she felt something else, her own growing certainty about what she needed to do. If she couldn't break the curse, if she couldn't find another way, then maybe there was only one choice that made sense. One choice that would save the bonds, protect Blake's position, and ensure the kingdoms didn't descend into chaos. The choice her grandmother had made, the sacrifice her bloodline demanded. She just had to make sure Blake didn't stop her. Chapter 6. The Council's Judgment. The Grand Hall of the Neutral Grounds had been built for exactly this purpose: inter-kingdom politics conducted without bloodshed. The massive stone structure sat on territory claimed by no pack, governed by ancient treaties that made it sacred ground where violence was forbidden. 20 kingdoms had sent representatives: alphas, betas, lunas. The hall buzzed with conversation, political maneuvering, and barely concealed tension. Kelly stood in the preparation room adjacent to the main hall, smoothing her gown for the 10th time. She wore midnight blue silk that marked her as Luna Queen-to-be, a silver circlet in her hair, and Blake's scent wrapped around her like armor. But no amount of finery could hide the truth. She was about to walk into a room full of wolves who wanted her dead. You look terrified, Blake said from behind her. I am terrified. Good. That means you understand the stakes. He moved to stand beside her, adjusting his formal jacket emblazoned with the Northern Kingdom crest. Remember the plan. We enter together. Let them see you as my mate, my Luna, untouchable. And when they demand my sacrifice? We present the evidence against the Delgados. Show that Sean tried to murder you to cover up embezzlement. Make them the villains, not you. His jaw tightened. And if they still demand your death, we leave, immediately. I've already ordered horses readied at the eastern exit. Blake, I won't debate this, Kelly. You're not dying today. Not for them, not for anyone. A knock at the door interrupted them. Rodney poked his head in. Your Majesty, everyone's assembled. Crescent Valley delegation just arrived. His expression was grim. Sean brought his father, and his mother, and about 30 witnesses ready to testify against Miss Dwyer. Blake's hand found Kelly's. Then we'd better not keep them waiting. They entered the grand hall to complete silence. Every eye turned to assess, to judge, to condemn. Kelly felt the weight of hundreds of gazes. She caught Sean's scent across the room, standing with his father, Alpha Frank Cameron, and his mother, the cunning Melinda Pacheco, who'd always been the real power behind Crescent Valley's throne. Sean's face held calculated sympathy, as if he pitied her for what was about to happen. And the council head, an ancient alpha named Hector Reed, who governed the neutral territory, stood at the center of the hall. "Alpha King Blake, Luna to be Kelly." His voice carried through the space. "We gather under grave circumstances. The mate bonds that have sustained our people for generations are fracturing. 73 couples have now reported complete bond failure. Hundreds more report weakening connections." He looked directly at Kelly. "And we have been informed that you are the cause." Murmurs rippled through the hall. "Council Head Reed," Blake said smoothly. "Before accusations are made, I believe context is necessary. Miss Dwyer was nearly murdered by her betrothed because she discovered systematic embezzlement." "Alleged embezzlement," Alpha Frank interrupted, standing. "My son has explained the situation. Miss Dwyer became unstable when faced with the responsibilities of mating a beta, and she made wild accusations to justify abandoning her obligations. When my son tried to reason with her, she fled into a storm and became lost." "Lost?" Kelly's voice rang out before she could stop herself. "He threw me from a moving carriage after drugging me with wolfsbane. He left me to die." "You have no proof of this," Melinda said, her voice smooth as silk. "Only accusations from a wolf who's now conveniently mated to our greatest enemy. How fortunate for the Northern Kingdoms that their king just happened to find you, that he just happened to save you, that he just happened to offer you protection in exchange for testimony against us." The implication was clear. Kelly and Blake had orchestrated everything. "We have proof," Blake said coldly. "Financial records showing 5 years of fraud, testimony from victims, evidence you've had weeks to fabricate," Frank countered. While bonds fracture and families suffer because this wolf refuses to complete the sacrifice her bloodline demands." Hector raised his hand for silence. "The embezzlement accusations are serious and will be investigated. But first, we must address the immediate crisis. Laverne Chavez, step forward." The ancient seer moved to the center of the hall, her clouded eyes somehow seeing everything. "Tell the council what you told Miss Dwyer 2 weeks ago." Laverne's voice carried to every corner. "What I saw visions, the dead bride who breathes, the broken deal, the third-born daughter of the cursed line." She turned toward Kelly. "Your grandmother made a bargain with the moon goddess. One sacrifice every 3rd generation to sustain the mate bonds. You died as required, but the Alpha King saved you, breaking the agreement. Now the bonds fail because the price has not been paid." "And the solution?" Hector asked. 3 paths. Laverne raised her gnarled fingers. "She dies as she should have, completing the sacrifice. The bonds stabilize, the kingdoms endure." Second finger. "She breaks the curse by uncovering what her grandmother hid. But the cost?" The seer shook her head. "The cost may be worse than the sacrifice itself." Third finger. "She refuses both. The bonds shatter completely. Wolf society collapses." Silence filled the hall. Then voices erupted, Alphas shouting questions, Lunas demanding action. The chaos built until Hector struck his staff against the floor 3 times. Order! We will have order!" When silence returned, he looked at Kelly with something like pity. "Miss Dwyer, in light of this testimony, the council must ask, have you investigated the second path, uncovering what your grandmother hid?" "We've tried," Kelly said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We've searched records, questioned elders, consulted every text on bloodline curses, but my grandmother died 16 years ago. Whatever she hid, she took to her grave." "Then we're left with 2 options," Frank said, seizing the moment. "She completes the sacrifice, or thousands of families suffer for her selfishness." "It's not selfish to want to live." Blake's voice cut like a blade. "It is when your life costs thousands of others their happiness." Melinda stood, addressing the hall. "I have here testimony from 20 mated pairs, all of them reporting bond degradation, all of them begging for relief." She gestured dramatically. How many families must be destroyed before this council acts? How many pups must grow up watching their parents forget they ever loved each other? Aluna in the back shouted, "My bond is failing! My mate barely recognizes me anymore!" Another voice, "This is her fault! She should have died in the snow!" "She's cursed! Complete the sacrifice!" The voices built, a wave of fear and anger directed at Kelly. She felt Blake's protective fury through the bond, felt him preparing to physically shield her if necessary. Then a new voice cut through the chaos. "There might be another way." Everyone turned to see Alex Harding step forward from where he'd been standing with the Northern Kingdom delegation. Blake's expression hardened. "Beta Harding, what are you doing?" "Offering a solution, Your Majesty." Alex's tone was respectful but firm, one that satisfies all parties. "Speak," Hector commanded. Alex addressed the council. The prophecy requires a sacrifice. One death to sustain the bonds, but it doesn't specifically require Miss Dwyer's death, only the death of the third-born in her bloodline." Kelly felt ice flood her veins. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Alex met her gaze, "that you're not the only third-born descendant of Sonia Maynard. Your mother had a sister, your Aunt Linda Parker, who lives in the Western Territories. She's third generation, just like you, and she has a daughter. As a third-born daughter named Christy, 3 months old." The hall went deathly silent. "No," Kelly whispered. "You can't be suggesting—" "I'm suggesting," Alex continued calmly, "that the sacrifice could be fulfilled by any third-generation bloodline member. Miss Dwyer could live, the bonds would stabilize, and the kingdoms would be saved." "By murdering an infant?" Blake's voice was lethal. "By making a difficult choice for the greater good." Alex didn't flinch. One life, a pup who hasn't even learned to shift yet, in exchange for thousands of families. It's cold arithmetic, Your Majesty, but it's logical." Kelly felt the room tilt. She saw some wolves nodding, considering it, saw others looking horrified but conflicted. "You treacherous—" Blake started. "I'm loyal to the Northern Kingdoms," Alex interrupted, "which is why I can't stand by while you sacrifice our political position and our allies' stability for one wolf, even if that wolf is your intended mate." He turned to the council. "Your Majesty has made his choice, his personal attachment over kingdom welfare, but this council can make a different choice, the right choice." "Right?" Kelly's voice shook with rage. "You want to murder my baby cousin to save yourselves? What kind of monsters are you?" "Pragmatic ones," Melinda said softly. "Sometimes leadership requires impossible decisions. Your grandmother understood that. She chose to sacrifice her bloodline to save everyone else. Now you have the same choice. You die, or the infant dies, or thousands of families suffer. Choose." "There's a fourth option," Blake said, his voice deadly calm. "Everyone in this hall who thinks murdering a 3-month-old pup is acceptable can try to take her, and I'll kill every single one of you before you get close." Hector struck his staff again. "Alpha King Blake, you cannot threaten council members." "That wasn't a threat. That was a promise." Blake's eyes swept the hall. "Anyone who touches that child answers to me. Anyone who tries to force Kelly's sacrifice answers to me. And anyone who votes to support either action makes themselves my enemy." "You'd go to war with the entire council?" Frank asked, disbelief in his voice. "Without hesitation." The hall erupted into chaos, alphas shouting threats, Lunas pleading for compromise, warriors reaching for weapons despite the sacred ground prohibition. And through it all, Kelly stood frozen, watching her world fracture. Alex had betrayed them, revealed her infant cousin as an alternative sacrifice, forced the council to choose between 3 deaths, hers, the baby's, or thousands of broken families. She felt Blake's determination through the bond, his absolute refusal to let anyone hurt her or Christy, his willingness to fight the entire world if necessary, but she also felt something else, a growing certainty about what she needed to do. "Stop," she said quietly. No one heard her over the chaos. "Stop!" The word came out as an alpha command, not Blake's, but her own Luna authority, still forming but powerful enough to cut through the noise. The hall went silent. Kelly looked at Blake, at the wolves demanding her death, at Alex who'd betrayed them, at Sean, who watched with calculated satisfaction. "I'll do it," she said clearly. "I'll complete the sacrifice." "No," Blake started. "But not here. Not today. Not until I've had a chance to say goodbye." She held up her hand as protests erupted. "You want my death? You'll have it. But I want 3 days. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to make peace with what's coming. Then I'll walk into the snow myself. No forcing, no fighting. I'll complete the sacrifice willingly." Hector studied her. "You would do this, knowing what it means?" "I would do this," Kelly said, "knowing that the alternative is war, knowing that my infant cousin would be hunted, and knowing that Blake would destroy himself trying to protect me." She felt tears on her cheeks but kept her voice steady. "I would do this because someone has to. Because my grandmother made a deal, and someone has to pay the price. Let it be me." "Kelly, no." Blake's voice broke. She turned to him, cupping his face in her hands. Through the bond, she sent everything, her love, her certainty, her absolute conviction that this was the only way to save him. "3 days," she whispered. "Give me 3 days with you. That's all I ask." "I won't let you. You can't stop me." She kissed him softly. "This is my choice, Blake. My sacrifice. Let me make it mean something." Before he could argue further, she turned back to the council. 3 days from now, at dawn, I'll walk into the northern forest. I'll complete the sacrifice as the prophecy demands. The bonds will stabilize, the kingdoms will be saved, and you'll all get to live with what you demanded here today." Hector was quiet for a long moment. Then, "The council accepts these terms. 3 days, Miss Dwyer. Make your peace." As the hall erupted into relieved murmurs and satisfied nods, Kelly felt Blake's anguish through the bond, felt his determination to find another way, to save her despite her choice. But she'd already made up her mind. In 3 days, she would walk into the snow, and this time, she would stay there. It was the only way to save everyone she loved. If you felt Kelly's choice in your chest, that moment she chose everyone's happiness over her own life. Hit that subscribe button. Because wolves like her deserve more than silent witnesses. They deserve people who actually stand up and say, "This matters." Don't just watch her sacrifice, honor it. Chapter 7. The Impossible Choice. The ride back to Thornridge was silent. Blake hadn't spoken since they'd left the council hall. Through the bond, Kelly felt his emotions: fury, despair, desperate determination. He was planning something. She could feel the wheels turning in his mind, searching for a way to save her despite her promise. When they arrived, he immediately disappeared into his study, calling for Rodney, Eula, and every scholar in the kingdom who knew anything about bloodline curses or moon goddess pacts. Kelly didn't follow. Instead, she walked to the gardens, needing space to breathe, to think, to prepare for what was coming. 3 days, 72 hours until she walked into the snow and didn't come back. She should feel terrified. Instead, she felt oddly calm, resolved, as if some part of her had always known it would end this way. That was quite a performance. Kelly spun to find Alex standing behind her, his expression unreadable. "You betrayed us," she said quietly. "You told them about Christy. You gave them an innocent child as an alternative sacrifice." "I gave them options." Alex moved closer. Options the Alpha King was too blinded by emotion to consider. Blinded by... Kelly's voice shook with rage. "You suggested murdering a baby." "I suggested a logical solution to an impossible problem." Alex's tone was maddeningly calm. "One child who hasn't bonded with anyone yet, who wouldn't be mourned beyond her immediate family, in exchange for thousands of established families. It's cold arithmetic, but it's not wrong. It's monstrous. No, it's leadership." Alex looked toward the manor where Blake was surely tearing through every text looking for salvation. His Majesty is a brilliant strategist, but he has a weakness. He lets emotion cloud judgment when it comes to people he cares about. His sister's death nearly destroyed him. He can't afford another personal loss, not when he's responsible for an entire kingdom." "So you decided to make the hard choice for him?" "Someone had to." Alex met her gaze. And someone had to make you see that your sacrifice is the only real solution. Not the baby. Not some magical loophole. You. Just as the prophecy demands. Why do you care? Kelly asked. Why does it matter to you whether I live or die? Alex was quiet for a moment. Then, because I was there, 20 years ago when his father died. I watched Blake take the throne at 16 years old, barely more than a pup himself, carrying the weight of an entire kingdom. I watched him build alliances, fight wars, make impossible decisions. I watched him sacrifice everything, his youth, his happiness, at any chance at a normal life, for his people. His voice hardened. And then you came along, a Crescent Valley wolf, the daughter of the pack that killed his father, and suddenly he's making reckless choices, threatening war with the entire council, prepared to watch thousands of families suffer rather than let you go. Alex shook his head. You're destroying him, Miss Dwyer. The best thing you can do for him is complete the sacrifice, or free him to lead without the weakness you represent. I'm not a weakness, Kelly said. I'm his mate. You're a liability he can't afford. Alex turned to leave, then paused. 3 days, Miss Dwyer. Don't make him waste them searching for salvation that doesn't exist. Spend them saying goodbye. It's kinder. After Alex left, Kelly stood alone in the gardens, his words echoing in her mind. You're destroying him. Was she? Was her presence making Blake weaker, more vulnerable, less capable of leading? Through the bond, she felt his frantic determination, felt him refusing to accept what seemed inevitable, felt him preparing to move mountains if necessary to save her. And she realized Alex was right about one thing. She was making Blake reckless, making him willing to sacrifice his kingdom's stability, his political alliances, everything he'd built for 20 years, all for one wolf who was supposed to have died in the snow. That evening, Blake finally emerged from his study. He found Kelly in her chambers, staring at the fire. I found something, he said without preamble. In the ancient texts, a precedent for breaking bloodline curses without completing the sacrifice. Blake, listen to me. He knelt beside her chair, taking her hands. 200 years ago, a bloodline curse was broken when the cursed individual completed an impossible task, a trial set by the moon goddess herself. If you succeed, the curse is lifted. If you fail... He stopped. If I fail, I die anyway, Kelly finished, and the bonds still fracture because the sacrifice wasn't completed properly. But there's a chance, a real chance to break this without you dying. What kind of trial? The texts don't specify. The moon goddess reveals it to the cursed individual directly, usually through visions or dreams. Blake's grip tightened on her hands. Tonight, when you sleep, she might show you. At council's faces, seen the desperation in council's faces, seen the desperation in the mated couples whose bonds were failing, seen the fear spreading across 3 kingdoms. And if she doesn't? Kelly asked quietly. If I sleep tonight and wake up with no vision, no trial, no magical solution? Then we find another way. There isn't another way, Blake. You know that. There's always another way. His voice cracked. I won't lose you, Kelly. I can't. She cupped his face, feeling the bond pulse between them. Love, desperation, determination, and beneath it all, the terrible grief he was trying to hold back. You might have to, she whispered. And I need you to promise me something. If the moon goddess doesn't offer a trial, if there's no other option, I need you to let me go. Don't fight it. Don't start a war. It's into that snow. If there's no other choice, into that snow. If there's no other choice. Promise me you'll survive this. He pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her like he could keep death away through sheer force of will. I promise, he said finally, the words torn from somewhere deep. If there's truly no other way, I'll let you go. But Kelly, his voice broke. You have to promise me you'll try. You'll sleep tonight and open yourself to any vision the moon goddess might send. You'll fight for a miracle even when it seems impossible. I promise. They held each other as the fire burned low and darkness settled over Thornridge Manor. 2 mates facing an impossible choice, her life or thousands of others, love or duty, selfishness or sacrifice. And somewhere in the back of Kelly's mind, a small voice whispered that maybe Alex had been right. Maybe the kindest thing she could do was make this easy. Accept her fate. Free Blake to lead without the weakness she represented. But when she looked at his face, at the love and desperation in his eyes, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Not yet. Not until she'd tried one last time to find another way. That night, Kelly lay in Blake's bed, not to mate, but simply to be close. To feel his warmth, his presence, and his solid reality against the uncertainty of what tomorrow might bring. "Tell me about her," Kelly said quietly. "Your sister, Miriam." Blake was silent for a long moment. Then, "She was everything I wasn't. Gentle, kind, saw good in everyone even when they didn't deserve it." His voice softened with memory. "She loved music. Used to sing while she worked in the gardens. Terribly off-key, but she didn't care. What happened to her? She fell in love with a wolf from a neutral pack. Raphael Shannon. Good wolf. Honorable. But Alpha Frank had already decided Raphael would mate his niece. Political alliance. When Miriam refused to step aside, there was an accident. Blake's arms tightened around Kelly. Her carriage went off a bridge during a storm. The driver swore the wheel had been tampered with, swore he smelled Crescent Valley wolves nearby, but he was just a servant. His word meant nothing. And Frank had witnesses? Dozens, all claiming Miriam had been drinking. That she was reckless. Blake's voice hardened. The council ruled it an accident. I've spent 5 years gathering proof it was murder. I've never found enough. "I'm sorry," Kelly whispered. "I'm so sorry you lost her." "She would have liked you." Blake's lips brushed her hair. "You're stubborn like she was, too brave for your own good, too willing to sacrifice yourself for others. Is that why you saved me? Because I remind you of her?" "No." His answer was immediate. I saved you because the moment I saw you, my wolf recognized you, because even dying in the snow, you had fire in your eyes, because—" He turned her to face him. "Because you're mine, Kelly. Fated mate, Luna Queen, the other half of my soul. I saved you because losing you before I'd even found you would have broken something fundamental." He kissed her then, not gentle, not careful, but desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her, the feel of her, everything that made her real. "Fight for us, Kelly. Fight for the life. Fight for us, Kelly. Fight for the life we could have." "I will," she promised. "I'll fight." She closed her eyes, feeling Blake's arms around her, the mate bond humming between them, and the weight of 3 kingdoms resting on her next breath. "Moon Goddess," she prayed silently, "if you're listening, if you care at all about the wolves you bound together, show me another way, please." Darkness pulled her under, and in the darkness, something answered. Kelly stood in a forest of silver trees under a sky full of stars. The ground beneath her feet glowed with soft light, and the air smelled of moonflowers and winter. "You called, child. I came." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Then a figure materialized, a woman, ageless and eternal, it with eyes like galaxies and power that made the air itself bow. The Moon Goddess. Kelly fell to her knees. "Please, there has to be another way, some trial, some task, anything but the sacrifice." "There is always another way." The goddess's voice was neither kind nor cruel, simply truth. "But every path has a price. I'll pay it, whatever it costs." "Will you?" The goddess circled her. "Your grandmother made a deal, power for her bloodline in exchange for sacrifice. That power has flowed through your family for 2 generations, protected them, strengthened them, made them leaders in their pack, all fed by the promise of blood. I don't want that power. But you've benefited from it. Your mother's status, your own position in the pack, even your survival. Do you think you lasted as long as you did in that snow by chance? Your grandmother's power kept you alive just long enough for your mate to find you." Kelly's breath caught. What are you saying?" "I'm saying the power and the sacrifice are linked. You cannot have one without the other. So here is your trial, Kelly Dwyer." The goddess's eyes blazed. Break the curse by severing your bloodline's power completely. Burn it away. Every trace of your grandmother's deal, every advantage it gave your family, every drop of strength it provided. How? Blood sacrifice. Not death, but power. The goddess gestured, and a silver dagger appeared in Kelly's hand. Oh, cut away your wolf. Sever the connection between your human soul and your animal spirit. Become fully human. Never shift again. Never feel the pack bond. Never run under the full moon. Never be whole again. Horror filled Kelly. My wolf is a product of the power your grandmother bought with blood. Sever it, and the curse breaks. The bonds stabilize. Everyone is saved. The goddess leaned close. But you'll live the rest of your life as half a person, human in a world of wolves. Oh, unable to shift, unable to truly connect with your mate through the bond, unable to be the Luna Queen he needs. That's not a choice, Kelly whispered. That's torture. It's survival. The goddess straightened. Your grandmother chose power over peace. Now you choose, death in the snow with your wolf intact, or life as a broken thing without the spirit that makes you whole. Choose wisely, child. Dawn comes quickly. The vision shattered. Kelly woke gasping, and the silver dagger somehow real in her hand, its weight undeniable. Blake stirred beside her. Kelly, what? He saw the dagger and went rigid. What is that? A choice. Her voice shook. The moon goddess gave me a choice. She told him everything. The trial, the price, the impossible decision between death with dignity or life as something less than whole. When she finished, Blake was silent for a long moment. Severing your wolf. You're not mutilating severing your wolf. You're not mutilating yourself to save them. But the bonds will fail or won't. I don't care. Blake pulled her against him. You're not doing this, Kelly. Not the sacrifice and not this trial. There has to be a third option. There isn't. Then we make one. His voice was steel. We have 2 days left. At 2 days to find a real solution. And if we can't... He met her eyes. Then we run. We take Christy and her family, and we disappear. Let the bonds fracture. Let the kingdoms collapse. I choose you. Through the bond, Kelly felt his absolute conviction, and she felt something else, the weight of thousands of families who would suffer if she made the selfish choice. The weight of being someone's salvation or someone's doom, and the terrible certainty that no matter what she chose, someone she loved would pay the price. Chapter 8. When the Kingdom Burned for One Wolf. Dawn broke over Thornridge with news that changed everything. Rodney burst into Blake's chambers where Kelly and Blake had spent the night strategizing, planning escape routes, preparing for the possibility of running rather than letting Kelly complete either sacrifice. Your Majesty! Rodney's face was ashen. We have a situation. Multiple situations. Crescent Valley has mobilized an army. 3,000 wolves, fully armed, marching toward our border. Blake was on his feet instantly. On what grounds? They're claiming you kidnapped Miss Dwyer, that you're holding her hostage to prevent the sacrifice. They're demanding her immediate surrender, or they'll take her by force. Rodney's expression darkened. And it's worse. 5 other kingdoms have joined them. They're calling it a coalition for bond preservation. 8,000 wolves, Blake said quietly. They're actually going to war over this. There's more. Rodney handed him a dispatch. The Western Territories sent word. Someone tried to kidnap the infant. Christy, Linda Parker's daughter. They were stopped, but barely. Your cousin is asking for protection. She's terrified they'll come back. Kelly felt ice in her veins. They're going after the baby. Even after I agreed to the sacrifice, they're still hunting her as backup. Frank wants insurance, Blake said, his voice cold. If you refuse to complete the sacrifice, he wants another option ready. He turned to Rodney. Send 50 of our best warriors to the Western Territories. Full defensive perimeter around Linda Parker's home. Anyone who tries to take that child answers to me. Your Majesty, if we send 50 warriors west, we'll be undermanned for the defense here. I don't care. Protect the child. Blake's Alpha Command left no room for argument. After Rodney left, Kelly moved to the window. In the distance, and she could see Thornridge's warriors mobilizing, weapons being distributed, defensive positions being prepared. War. Actual war. because of her. This is what Alex warned about, she said quietly. You're sacrificing your kingdom's safety for me. I'm protecting what's mine. Blake came to stand behind her. You, the child. The principle that wolves shouldn't be murdered to satisfy prophecies. Even if it means thousands die in battle instead? Even then. A commotion in the courtyard drew their attention. Eula was running toward the manor, her usually composed expression shattered by panic. They met her at the entrance. Your Majesty, the bonds. They're not just weakening anymore, they're severing completely. 20 couples in the last hour alone, and Eula's voice broke. It's spreading faster. At the healer's estimate, we have less than 24 hours before every bond in 3 kingdoms is gone permanently. Kelly felt the world tilt. Because the 3-day deadline is approaching, the moon goddess is forcing the issue. Or Frank is manipulating the timeline, Blake said, pressuring you to choose faster by making the situation more desperate. Does it matter? Kelly turned to face him. Either way, tomorrow at dawn, I have to make a choice. Death, severing my wolf, or letting thousands of families forget they ever loved each other while men die in battle over me. There's still time to find another way. There is no other way! Kelly's voice cracked. Don't you see? The moon goddess gave me 2 options. Both terrible, both requiring me to sacrifice something fundamental. And now an army is marching on your kingdom because I'm too selfish to choose. She felt tears streaming down her face. How many of your wolves will die defending me, Blake? How many families will be destroyed because I want to live? As many as it takes. His voice was absolute. I won't apologize for valuing your life. Even when it costs thousands of others? Even then. Before Kelly could respond, another messenger arrived, this one barely able to stand, blood streaming from wounds across his chest. Your Majesty, he gasped. The coalition. They're not waiting for dawn. They've begun their march. They'll reach our borders by nightfall. And they sent a message. He handed Blake a sealed letter. Blake read it, his expression darkening with every word. Then he handed it to Kelly. Alpha King Blake, we gave you 3 days. You've wasted 2 of them searching for miracles that don't exist. Now innocent wolves are suffering because of your selfish attachment to one cursed female. We're coming for her. Tonight. If you surrender her peacefully, we'll call off the assault. She'll complete the sacrifice. The bonds will stabilize. Peace will be maintained. If you refuse, we'll take her by force, and every wolf who dies in the battle will be on your conscience and hers. You have until sunset to decide. Choose wisely. Alpha Frank Cameron, on behalf of the Coalition for Bond Preservation. Kelly read the letter twice, feeling the weight of each word. 8,000 wolves marching toward Thornridge. All of them willing to kill and die to force her sacrifice. How many warriors do you have? She asked quietly. 3,000. Blake's jaw was tight. Well-trained, well-armed, defending fortified positions. We can hold them off for a while. But eventually you'll lose. And wolves on both sides will die. Kelly looked at him. How many, Blake? If this turns into a full battle, how many casualties? He was silent. Tell me. Thousands. His voice was hollow. Maybe 10,000 total across both sides. Wars like this don't end cleanly. 10,000 wolves, dead or wounded, and families destroyed, children left orphaned, all because Kelly wanted to live. She thought of the moon goddess's words. Every path has a price, death in the snow, life without her wolf, or war that would kill thousands. There's a 4th option, she said slowly. One nobody's considered. Kelly, what if I go to them? Not to complete the sacrifice, but to negotiate. To buy time. She grabbed his arms. What if I can convince them to give us 1 more day? Or 1 more chance to find a real solution that doesn't require death or mutilation or war? They won't negotiate. Frank wants you dead or broken. He won't accept anything less. He might if I offer him something he wants more. Kelly's mind raced. The evidence, the proof of his embezzlement. What if I agreed to destroy it? To never testify against him? To let him walk away clean in exchange for more time? Absolutely not. We're not letting him get away with... What does justice matter if 10,000 wolves die in the battle? Kelly's voice rose. What does revenge matter if your kingdom burns? Blake, I'm offering you a way to save your wolves. Take it. At the cost of letting the Camerons escape consequences for murder and theft? Yes, at that cost. She was shouting now, tears streaming down her face. Because some costs are worth paying. It's because your wolves' lives matter more than my need for vengeance. Blake stared at her, and through the bond she felt his war. The alpha who wanted justice warring with the mate who wanted her safe. The king who needed to protect his kingdom warring with the man who couldn't bear to let her walk into danger. If you go to them, he said finally, you go with a full escort, 20 warriors minimum, and I come with you. Blake, those are my terms. You don't face Frank alone. Kelly wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she needed to do this herself, but she saw the desperation in his eyes, felt his terror through the bond. 20 warriors, she agreed. And you, but Blake... She cupped his face. If Frank refuses to negotiate, if he demands I complete the sacrifice immediately, you have to let me do it. You have to let me save the wolves who die in battle. Don't ask me. I'm asking anyway. Please. He pulled her against his chest. I'll broke. I won't survive it. You need to broke. I won't survive it. You need to understand that. Losing you will destroy me. Then I'll try not to die. She kissed him softly. I'll try to find another way. But if you can't, then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure your sacrifice meant something. He held her tighter. I'll protect your cousin. I'll build a memorial. And I'll make sure every wolf in 3 kingdoms knows that Kelly Dwyer died to save them, that she was brave and selfless and worth 1,000 of the cowards who demanded her death. They held each other as the sun climbed higher, knowing that in a few hours they'd ride out to meet an army demanding Kelly's life. The Coalition's camp was 5 miles south of Thornridge's border, 8,000 wolves arranged in military precision. Tents, supply lines, warriors sharpening weapons and preparing for battle. Blake rode at the front of their group, Kelly beside him, 20 warriors forming a protective perimeter. They'd sent word ahead requesting parley under sacred ground rules. No violence during negotiations. Frank had agreed, probably because he thought he'd already won. They were led to a large command tent where Frank waited with Melinda, Sean, and a dozen other alphas representing the Coalition kingdoms. Sean's eyes found Kelly immediately, and something ugly crossed his face. You look well, for someone who should be dead twice over. Enough, Frank said. We're here to negotiate, not trade insults. He looked at Blake. Your Majesty, you received our message. You understand our position. Surrender the cursed wolf. Let her complete the sacrifice. Everyone goes home peacefully. Or, Blake's voice was cold, or we take her by force, and thousands die in the process. Frank spread his hands. It's a simple equation, Your Majesty. 1 life for 10,000. Even you can see the math. I have a different proposal, Kelly said before Blake could respond. Give me 1 more day. 24 hours to find another solution. If I can't break the curse by tomorrow at dawn, I'll complete the sacrifice willingly. No battle, no casualties. We've heard that before, Melinda said. You agreed to 3 days, then spent 2 of them searching for miracles while bonds shattered and families suffered. Because there might still be a miracle to find. Kelly kept her voice steady. 1 more day. That's all I'm asking. And what do we get in exchange? Sean leaned forward. Why should we give you more time? Kelly took a breath. This was the part that would hurt. I'll destroy the evidence, all of it. The financial records showing your embezzlement, the witness testimony, everything. I'll recant my accusations publicly. You walk away clean. Blake's hand clenched on her arm, but he stayed silent. Frank and Melinda exchanged glances, calculating, weighing the offer. Not enough, Frank said finally. The evidence is valuable, but not worth letting you manipulate more delays. We want insurance. What kind of insurance? The child, Christy. Bring her here. Now. If you haven't completed the sacrifice by dawn tomorrow, we'll complete it with her instead. Horror flooded Kelly. No, absolutely not. She's an infant. She's insurance, Frank repeated calmly. And she's our backup plan. You get your extra day, but the child stays in our custody. If you fulfill your obligation, she goes free. If you don't," he shrugged, "the prophecy gets fulfilled one way or another." "You want us to hand over a 3-month-old baby so you can murder her if Kelly doesn't die?" Blake's voice was lethal. Have you lost your minds?" "We want guarantee that this ends tomorrow," Melinda said. "One way or another. Those are our terms. Accept them, or we march on Thornridge tonight." Kelly felt the trap closing. They'd anticipated everything, prepared for every argument, and now they were forcing an impossible choice: hand over an innocent child to ensure Kelly's compliance, or condemn thousands to war. "Give us a moment," Blake said through clenched teeth. They stepped outside the tent, out of earshot. "We can't give them Christy," Kelly said immediately. "We can't put that baby in danger." "I know." Blake's mind was clearly racing. "But if we refuse, they attack tonight. 3,000 against 8,000. We'll lose. Then I complete the sacrifice now. Today. End this before—" "No." His voice cracked like a whip. "We're not out of options yet." "What options? They've backed us into a corner. Either I die, or Christy is at risk, or your wolves die in battle." "Oh, those are the only choices left." Blake was silent for a long moment. Then, "There's one more option. One I haven't wanted to consider because it's dangerous and probably insane." "Tell me." "We fight. Not a pitched battle, but targeted strikes. My best warriors against their command structure. We take out Frank, Melinda, Sean, the leadership. Without them, the coalition fractures. The individual kingdoms retreat." "That's assassination," Kelly breathed. "On sacred ground during parley. It violates every treaty." "I know." His eyes were ice. "But I'm running out of ways to save you that don't require sacrificing everything I believe in. So here we are. I can let you die, I can hand over a baby to murderers, I can watch my kingdom burn, or I can become the villain who breaks sacred law to protect what's mine." Through the bond, Kelly felt his desperation, felt him standing at a precipice, preparing to jump because every other path led to losing her. "Don't," she whispered. Don't destroy yourself for me. Don't become something you'll hate." "I already hate what I'm becoming. A king who can't protect his mate. A leader who can't save his people without bloodshed." He cupped her face. "But I hate the alternative more." Before Kelly could respond, a wolf burst from the forest, one of the scouts Blake had left at Thornridge. "Your Majesty, emergency! Thornridge is under attack!" Chapter 9. The Alphas Fall. "What?" Blake's voice was deadly calm. "Say that again." "Thornridge is under attack, Your Majesty." The scout was bleeding from a shoulder wound, barely standing. "Northern flank. At least 1,000 wolves. They're not coalition forces, different scent, different colors. They breached the outer defenses 20 minutes ago." "That's impossible," Blake said. "We have scouts on every approach. We would have seen an army that size." "It's not an army, Your Majesty. It's rogues. Mercenaries." The scout swayed. "Someone hired them to attack while you were here negotiating." Kelly felt ice flood her veins. "A distraction. They wanted us away from Thornridge." Blake was already moving, shouting orders. "Rodney, take 10 warriors and ride hard for Thornridge. Defensive positions, protect the civilians. We're right behind you." But before Rodney could move, Frank emerged from the command tent, Sean and Melinda flanking him. His expression was carefully neutral. About the attack." "I'm sure I don't know about the attack. I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about. We're here, negotiating in good faith." Frank spread his hands innocently. "Though I must say it's unfortunate timing. Thornridge under attack while its Alpha King is miles away. Such a vulnerable position. You orchestrated this." Blake took a step toward Frank, and his 20 warriors immediately flanked him, hands on weapons. "You hired rogues to attack my kingdom while holding me here with talks." "Can you prove it?" Melinda asked sweetly. "Or are you making wild accusations because your defensive strategy failed?" Sean smiled. "Of course, we'd be happy to help. The coalition could send forces to assist Thornridge's defense. All you need to do is agree to our terms. Surrender Miss Dwyer for immediate sacrifice. We'll call off the rogues and everyone goes home. The trap was complete. Frank had never intended to negotiate. He'd orchestrated everything, the coalition march, the parley, the rogue attack, all designed to force Blake into an impossible corner. You have 1 minute to decide, Your Majesty, Frank said. Surrender the cursed wolf, or return to find your kingdom in ashes. Through the bond, Kelly felt Blake's rage, felt his desperate need to protect both her and his kingdom, and felt him being torn in 2 directions. Go, she said quietly. Blake, go. Save your kingdom. I'm not leaving you. You have to. She grabbed his arm. Your people need you. Thornridge needs its alpha king. I'll be fine here. You'll be dead the moment I leave. Blake's voice was raw. That's the plan. I ride off to save Thornridge, and they complete your sacrifice before I can return. Then they complete it. Kelly felt strange calm settle over her. Blake, this is what I agreed to. This is what the prophecy demands. Let me do this. Let me save your kingdom and your wolves. Kelly, no! 30 seconds, Frank said. I love you, Kelly whispered. I need you to know that. These past weeks, even with everything falling apart, have been the happiest of my life. Because I found my mate. Because I found someone worth dying for. Don't do this, Blake's voice broke. Please. 15 seconds. Kelly made her choice. She stepped away from Blake and toward Frank and the coalition leaders. I agree to your terms. I'll complete the sacrifice immediately. Right here, right now. Call off the rogues. Let Blake save his kingdom. No! Blake lunged for her, but she'd already moved too far. His warriors held him back as he fought against them, alpha command and desperation making his voice shake the ground. Kelly, don't you dare! I'm sorry, she said, tears streaming down her face. But I won't let your kingdom burn for me. And I won't let thousands die when I can save them. She turned to Frank. Call them off. Now. Before more wolves die. Frank smiled. Cold, calculating, satisfied. Of course. He gestured to one of his wolves, who pulled out a horn and blew 3 sharp blasts. The signal to cease attack. There. The rogues will withdraw. Your kingdom is safe. Frank moved toward Kelly. Now. Let's complete this sacrifice before anyone has second thoughts. You have to let me go, Kelly said to Blake through the bond, sending everything. Her love, her certainty, her absolute conviction that this was right. Please, let me do this one thing. Let me save you. Blake sagged in his warrior's grip, and through the bond, Kelly felt something inside him shatter, felt his soul breaking as he realized he couldn't save her, that every path, every strategy, and every desperate plan had led to this moment. I'll find you, he said, his voice wrecked. In the next life, in whatever comes after, I'll find you again. I'll be waiting. Kelly smiled through her tears. I love you, Blake. Remember that. Whatever happens, I love you. Frank grabbed Kelly's arm. Touching. Now let's finish this before... A howl split the air, not a wolf's howl, something older, more primal. The sound made every wolf present freeze, instincts screaming danger. And then Laverne Chavez emerged from the forest, her clouded eyes streaming silver tears. Stop! The seer's voice boomed with power that shouldn't exist in something so ancient and frail. The moon goddess speaks. The prophecy changes. What are you talking about? Frank's grip on Kelly tightened. The prophecy is clear. The prophecy is satisfied. Laverne slammed her staff into the ground, and silver light exploded outward. The sacrifice has been made. But the price has been paid. Everyone stared at the seer in shocked silence. Explain yourself, Blake commanded, hope and desperation warring in his voice. Laverne turned her clouded eyes toward Kelly. You were willing, truly willing. Not from duty or pressure, but from love, from genuine sacrifice. The seer's voice softened. That willingness, that pure selflessness, is what the moon goddess truly wanted. Not death, not blood, but proof that wolves still understood the meaning of sacrifice. That love still meant something. That's not possible, Melinda said, her voice sharp with disbelief. The prophecy requires a sacrifice, Laverne interrupted. And one has been made. She gave up everything, safety, love, future, to save others. She walked into death willingly. The moon goddess sees. The bonds are stabilizing even as we speak. Silence. Then one of the coalition alphas gasped. My bond, it's stronger. I can feel my mate again. Clear as day. Another voice. Mine too. It's back. Murmurs spread through the camp as wolves felt their bonds strengthening, returning, the fracturing reversing. Frank's face went white. But she's still alive. The sacrifice wasn't completed. It was completed the moment she chose death over life. Laverne's voice carried absolute certainty. The moon goddess never wanted blood, Alpha Frank. She wanted faith. She wanted to know that wolves still understood what it meant to sacrifice for others, and this child, she gestured to Kelly, has proven it beyond doubt. This is a trick, Sean snarled. Some ploy to... The bonds are stable. One of the coalition healers ran forward. I'm feeling reports from across all kingdoms. Every bond that was fracturing, they're all healing, strengthening. The crisis is over. Kelly stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. She'd been ready to die, and had accepted it, made peace with it. And now... The curse is broken, Laverne said, moving to stand before Kelly. Your willingness to sacrifice yourself broke the chain your grandmother forged. No more sacrifices will be required. No more third-generation daughters will die in snow. You've freed your bloodline, child, at the cost of nothing but your fear. Blake was at her side in seconds, his arms crushing her against him. Through the bond, Kelly felt his overwhelming relief, his joy. Goddess, thank everything holy. But Frank had to stop. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He was crying. I'm sorry, goddess. Thank everything holy. But Frank wasn't finished. His face had gone from white to red, rage replacing shock. No, this isn't over. She admitted to theft, to betraying her pack. She admitted to nothing except trying to expose your crimes, Blake said coldly, turning to face him. And speaking of crimes, we need to discuss your hiring of mercenaries to attack my kingdom during a sacred parley. You can't prove... I can prove everything. A new voice cut through the clearing. Alex Harding stepped forward, and in his hands was a satchel bulging with documents. What is this? Blake's voice was wary. Insurance, Your Majesty. Alex met his gaze. I've spent the past 2 weeks infiltrating the Crescent Valley command structure, making them think I was sympathetic to their cause, gaining their trust. He opened the satchel, pulling out papers. These are contracts with the rogue mercenaries, signed by Alpha Frank, orders to attack Thornridge, payment schedules, everything you need to prove he violated sacred parley laws." "You were a spy?" Kelly breathed. "This whole time?" "I was doing my job," Alex said quietly. "Protecting the Northern Kingdoms, even when it meant playing the villain. Even when it meant suggesting terrible things to maintain my cover." He looked at Blake. "I'm sorry for what I said about the child, about Miss Dwyer, but it was necessary to make them believe I'd betrayed you." Blake stared at his beta, and through the bond, Kelly felt his emotions warring. Betrayal, understanding, reluctant respect. "You could have told me," Blake said finally. "You needed to believe I'd actually betrayed you. Your reactions needed to be genuine." Alex held out the documents. But I never stopped working for you, Your Majesty, even when it looked like I had." Hector Reed emerged from the coalition camp, his ancient face grave. "These are serious accusations. If Alpha Frank truly violated sacred parley—" "He did." Alex handed over the documents. "It's all there. Contracts, communications, payments. He hired rogues to attack Thornridge while forcing the Alpha King into negotiations here." Hector examined the papers, his expression darkening with each page. Finally, he looked at Frank. "Alpha Frank Cameron. These documents appear genuine. You violated one of our oldest laws. Sacred parley is inviolate. Attack during negotiations is grounds for immediate removal from leadership and—" "This is ridiculous," Frank snarled. "Those documents are forged, a desperate ploy by—" "They bear your seal," Hector said coldly. "Your signature, your personal codes that only Pack leadership would know." He gestured to guards. "Take him into custody. In Melinda Pacheco and Sean Delgado as well. They'll all stand trial for conspiracy, attempted murder, and violation of sacred law." As guards moved to arrest them, Sean's eyes flashed yellow. "You think this is over? You think you've won?" He shifted mid-sentence, his wolf launching toward Kelly with murder in its eyes. Blake shifted faster, intercepting. The two wolves collided in a tangle of fur and fury. The fight was brief and vicious. Sean was strong, desperate, of fighting with nothing to lose. But Blake was an Alpha King, 300 years of warrior bloodline in his veins. Within seconds, Blake had Sean pinned, jaws locked on his throat in a hold that could easily become lethal. "Yield," Blake growled through his wolf form. Sean struggled for a moment, then went limp in submission. Blake held him for 3 more seconds, making his dominance absolutely clear, then released him and shifted back to human form. "Sean Delgado," Blake said, and his voice carrying across the clearing. "You attempted to murder your betrothed. You embezzled from your own pack. You tried to force a sacrifice for political gain, and now you've attacked during sacred parley." His eyes were ice. "By pack law, I could claim blood justice, execute you here and now." Sean shifted back, bleeding from multiple wounds. "Then do it," he spat. "End this." Blake was silent for a long moment. Then, "No, I won't give you the mercy of a quick death. You'll stand trial, face justice properly, and spend the rest of your life in prison knowing that the wolf you tried to destroy became a queen while you became nothing." He gestured to guards. "Take them all. Lock them away until trial." As Sean, Frank, and Melinda were led away, all of them bleeding, beaten, their power shattered, Kelly felt something fundamental shift. It was over. The prophecy satisfied, the bonds stable, the villains defeated. She'd survived. Blake pulled her against him, and through the bond, stronger now than ever, Kelly felt his love, his relief, his absolute certainty that he would never let her go again. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered. "When you walked toward them, when you accepted the sacrifice, I thought—" "I know." She held him tighter. "But I didn't die. The moon goddess had other plans." "Apparently." He pulled back to look at her. Though I'd prefer if those plans didn't involve you volunteering for death quite so enthusiastically." Despite everything, Kelly laughed. "I'll try to keep that in mind." Around them, the coalition was dissolving. Alphas returning to their kingdoms, wolves spreading word that the crisis was over, the bonds were stable, peace was returning. But as Kelly stood there in Blake's arms, she knew this was just the beginning. There would be trials, rebuilding, and tear them apart. "Let's go home." Blake, tear them apart. "Let's go home," Blake said softly. "Let's go back to Thornridge and start building the life we almost lost." "Home," Kelly repeated, testing the word. "I like the sound of that." They rode back to Thornridge as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And for the first time since that terrible night in the snow, Kelly felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Kelly was willing to die so thousands could keep loving each other. She walked into death without hesitation. The least you can do is hit like. Seriously, she gave everything, and you can't give 1 second to tap a button? Don't be the wolf who takes the sacrifice but gives nothing back. Show her story matters. Chapter 10. Legacy. 5 years later. The autumn sun filtered through the trees surrounding Thornridge Manor, painting the grounds in shades of gold and crimson. In the newly expanded sanctuary wing, now housing over 80 wolves who'd sought refuge, laughter and conversation filled the air. Kelly stood on the eastern balcony, watching her kingdom thrive. Her kingdom. The words still felt surreal sometimes, even after 5 years of being Luna Queen. "Mama! Mama! Watch!" She turned to see her daughter racing across the courtyard below, 4-year-old Janine, with Blake's dark hair and Kelly's fierce spirit. The child shifted mid-run, her small brown wolf tumbling over her own paws before finding her footing and howling with triumph. "Very good, little Alpha," Kelly called down. "Now shift back before Uncle Rodney makes you run combat drills." Janine shifted back, giggling. Uncle Rodney says I'm going to be a great warrior like you." "Warrior like me?" Blake's voice came from behind Kelly. "I'm wounded. What about warrior like your father?" Kelly leaned back against him as his arms wrapped around her. "She has my tactical mind. Your brute strength is secondary." "Brute strength?" He nuzzled her neck. "I'll show you brute strength later." Promises, promises. But Kelly smiled, feeling the mate bond pulse with warmth and contentment. 5 years, and it still felt like coming home every time he touched her. Below, Janine was now playing with other sanctuary pups. Children of wolves who'd fled abuse, persecution, forced matings, all of them finding safety in the Northern Kingdom's expanding refuge program. "Reports came in this morning," Blake said, his tone shifting to business. 12 more kingdoms have established sanctuary programs based on our model. The Inter-Kingdom Council has officially recognized Luna protection rights as law." "Only 12? Kelly teased. "I expected faster adoption. You've revolutionized wolf society in 5 years. Give the slower kingdoms time to catch up." He turned her to face him. "Though I should mention, the council wants you to speak at the annual summit again. Share updates on the sanctuary program." "Again? I spoke last year and the year before." "Because you're the expert. Because every time you speak, more kingdoms implement reforms." Blake's pride flowed through the bond. "You've become the voice for wolves who never had one." Kelly thought about the journey that had brought her here. From dying in the snow to standing on this balcony as Luna Queen. From powerless victim to advocate for the vulnerable. "Speaking of voices," she said, "did you hear? Linda's daughter Christy just got accepted to the Royal Academy. Top scores in her class. The infant we nearly lost to Frank's madness is now 14 and brilliant." Blake shook his head. Time moves strangely. "She wants to study law. Says she's going to become an advocate for pup protection rights." Kelly smiled. The child they wanted to sacrifice as backup is going to change the world. She learned from the best. Blake kissed her temple. Her cousin showed her what's possible when you refuse to accept injustice." A commotion at the main gate drew their attention. Eula was leading a new arrival, a young wolf, maybe 19, with bruises covering her face and terror in her eyes. "Another one," Kelly said quietly. "I should go." "You should rest. You're 6 months pregnant." "And the healer said I'm healthy and strong and perfectly capable of welcoming refugees." Kelly rubbed her swollen belly where their second child, a boy, the healers thought, was growing strong. "Besides, she needs to see the Luna Queen, needs to know she's safe." Blake sighed but didn't argue. He'd learned over 5 years that Kelly would always put her wolves first, pregnancy or not. And name? Kelly asked softly. Approaching name? Kelly asked softly, approaching carefully. Thelma Crane, Your Majesty. The girl's voice shook. From the Southern Territories, She stopped, tears spilling over. They were going to force me to mate my cousin, for political alliance. I ran. I didn't know where else to go. You came to the right place. Kelly took her hand. You're safe here, Thelma. No one will force you into any mating. You have my word as Luna Queen. The relief on Thelma's face was profound. Thank you. Thank you so much. I heard stories about the Northern Kingdoms, about Luna Kelly who survived her own forced mating attempt and built a sanctuary. I hoped... She stopped. I hoped the stories were true. They're true. Kelly squeezed her hand. Every word. And now you're part of that story. You're part of wolves who chose freedom over submission. After Eula led Thelma away to get settled, Blake pulled Kelly close. You know what this means, he said quietly. The Southern Territories will demand her return. Alpha Donald Holland doesn't like losing political assets. Then Alpha Donald will learn that forced matings are no longer acceptable. Not in any kingdom that wants our alliance. Kelly's voice hardened. We've changed too much to go back now. My fierce Luna. Blake smiled. Oh, ready to start diplomatic incidents over breakfast? Always. That evening, the Northern Kingdom Council gathered for their monthly assembly. 20 representatives, alphas, lunas, betas, even omegas now, a reform Kelly had championed, discussing kingdom business. First order, Blake said from his seat at the head table, Kelly beside him. The Delgado trials concluded this week. Final sentencing. 5 years of investigation, testimony, and legal proceedings had finally ended. Sean Delgado. Life imprisonment for attempted murder, embezzlement, and conspiracy. No possibility of parole. Blake's voice was matter-of-fact. Frank Cameron. Stripped of alpha status. 20 years imprisonment for hiring mercenaries and violating sacred parley. Melinda Pacheco. 15 years for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. The council murmured approval. Additionally, Kelly added, all embezzled funds have been returned to victims with interest. At the Crescent Valleys PAC, now under new leadership, has formally apologized and offered reparations. Who leads Crescent Valley now? One of the council members asked. Alpha Raphael Shannon, Blake said. The wolf who was engaged to my sister before she died. He's implementing reforms, establishing their own sanctuary program. Apparently losing Miriam changed him, made him want to build something better. Kelly felt Blake's complex emotions through the bond, grief for his sister, a satisfaction that her death had ultimately led to positive change, and underneath it all, the faint hope that maybe Miriam would have been proud. Next order of business, Eula said, consulting her notes. The Western Territories are requesting military alliance, specifically protection against any attempts to kidnap sanctuary wolves. Approved, Blake said. Draft the treaty. Any kingdom that harbors refugees under our model gets full Northern Kingdom military protection. More murmurs of approval. Over 5 years, the Northern Kingdoms had gone from isolated and defensive to the center of a growing alliance built on protection and reform. Last item, Rodney said, standing. The Combat Academy wants to add a new course to the curriculum. History of Luna Kelly's reforms. Teaching young wolves about sanctuary rights, forced mating abolition, and the prophecy crisis of 5 years ago. Kelly felt her cheeks flush. That's not necessary. It absolutely is, Blake interrupted. Our pups need to understand what their Luna Queen accomplished, how she changed wolf society, how she proved that compassion isn't weakness. The council voted unanimously in favor. After the meeting concluded, as wolves dispersed to evening meals and family time, Blake and Kelly walked through the gardens. The same gardens where she'd once stood, all terrified and broken, preparing to sacrifice herself. Do you ever regret it? Blake asked quietly. The choice you made 5 years ago? Walking toward that sacrifice? No. Kelly's answer was immediate. Because that choice, that willingness to die for others, broke the curse. Saved the bonds, changed everything. She looked up at him. I'd make the same choice again. I know. That's what terrifies me. He pulled her close. You'd throw yourself into danger without hesitation if you thought it would save others. So would you. That's different. How? Because losing you would destroy me, he said simply. Losing me would hurt you, but you'd survive. You're stronger than I am. Through the bond, Kelly felt his absolute certainty. After 5 years, he still believed he needed her more than she needed him. You're wrong, she said softly. Losing you would destroy me just as completely. But the only difference is I hide it better. Noted. We'll both try not to die heroically. Deal. They walked in comfortable silence until they reached the monument that had been erected 2 years ago, a statue of a white wolf and black wolf standing side by side. At the base, an inscription, "For Luna Kelly, who chose death to save thousands and proved that true sacrifice comes from love, not obligation. For Alpha King Blake, who chose her above kingdoms and showed that protecting the vulnerable is the highest form of strength. May their example guide us always." Still strange seeing ourselves in stone, Kelly said. You get used to it. Blake studied the statue. Though they made my wolf too large, I'm not that much bigger than you. You absolutely are. Details. A messenger approached, young Clarence Gardner, who'd joined the sanctuary 3 years ago and now served as Blake's personal aide. Your Majesties, an urgent message from the council head. He's calling an emergency summit. The Eastern Alliance is threatening to reinstate forced mating practices. They're claiming our reforms are weakening pack structures. Kelly and Blake exchanged glances. So it begins again, Kelly said quietly. The fight to protect what we've built. Then we fight. Blake's voice was steel. Oh, we didn't survive a prophecy and a war to let backwards kingdoms drag us back to the old ways. Send word to Hector, Kelly told Clarence. Tell him the northern kingdoms will attend, and will be bringing evidence, testimonies, statistics, proof that our reforms have made packs stronger, not weaker. Also, Blake added, send invitations to every kingdom with active sanctuary programs. United Front. They want to fight, we'll show them they're outnumbered. After Clarence left, Kelly looked at the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, wolves were suffering under the old systems, being forced into unwanted matings, having no voice in their own futures, believing they had no choice but to submit. We'll save them, Blake said, reading her thoughts. Just like we've saved 80 others, one wolf at a time if necessary. One wolf at a time, Kelly agreed. She thought about the girl she'd been 5 years ago, dying in the snow, powerless, believing her life was ending. She thought about the woman she'd become. Luna Queen, sanctuary founder, voice for the voiceless. The prophecy had demanded sacrifice, and she'd made one. Not her life, but her fear. Not her death, but her silence. She'd survived, and in surviving, she'd changed the world. Ready to fight another battle? Blake asked, offering his hand. Kelly took it, feeling the mate bond pulse with strength and certainty. Always. As long as we fight together. They walked back toward the manor as stars began appearing overhead. Behind them, the sanctuary buzzed with life. Wolves who'd found safety, pups who'd found hope, families who'd found peace. Ahead lay more challenges, more wolves to save, more kingdoms to convince, more battles to fight. But Kelly had learned something in those terrible moments when she'd walked toward death. She was stronger than any curse, braver than any prophecy, and capable of changing destinies that others claimed were fixed. She'd been left in the cold to die by a wolf who'd seen her as disposable. She'd been found by a wolf who'd taught her she was invaluable. And together, they'd proven that even the darkest nights could lead to the brightest dawns, if you were brave enough to survive them. Epilogue. 10 years after the prophecy crisis. The grand hall of the neutral grounds was packed beyond capacity. Every kingdom, every pack, every wolf of significance had come to witness history. The Inter-Kingdom Council was voting on the Universal Sanctuary Accords, legislation that would make sanctuary rights, forced mating abolition, and vulnerability protections mandatory across all wolf territories. Kelly stood at the center of the hall, and 9 months pregnant with her third child, another daughter, the healers said, and addressing the assembled leaders for the final time. 10 years ago, I was dying in the snow because I dared to speak truth to power, because I'd chosen conscience over convenience, because I'd believed that justice mattered more than political alliances. Her voice carried clearly through the space. Today, we vote on whether those beliefs become law, whether we choose a future where no wolf is left to die for inconvenient morals, where no child is forced into unwanted matings, where vulnerability is protected, not exploited. She placed her hand on her swollen belly. I'm voting yes, not just for my children, but for every pup who deserves to grow up knowing their voice matters, their choices matter, their lives matter. All in favor of the Universal Sanctuary Accords, Hector Reed called out. Signify by standing. Kelly held her breath. One by one, alphas stood, then lunas, then betas and omegas, wave after wave of wolves rising to their feet until the entire hall was standing. Every single kingdom, every single pack, unanimous approval. Tears streamed down Kelly's face as the hall erupted in applause. Blake was at her side instantly, pulling her close. You did it, he whispered. You changed everything. We did it, she corrected. Together. That night, as they returned to Thornridge with their children, Janine now 9, their son Toby 7, and another daughter on the way, Kelly stood one last time on the balcony overlooking her kingdom. She thought about the girl who'd been thrown into the snow, the prophecy that had demanded her death, the impossible choices that had nearly torn her apart, and she thought about what had come after. Love, partnership, purpose, legacy. She'd survived the cold, built a sanctuary, changed wolf society forever. Not bad for a girl who was supposed to die. Blake appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her pregnant belly. Ready for bed, Luna Queen? You've had a long day of making history. Just one more minute. Kelly leaned back against him, feeling the mate bond pulse with contentment. I want to remember this moment, this feeling, this certainty that we built something that will outlast us both. It will. Blake kissed her temple. Centuries from now, wolves will tell stories about Luna Kelly who broke the curse and changed the world. And ever happened to a grumpy alpha king who ever happened to a grumpy alpha king who didn't know what he was missing until he found her dying in the snow. Kelly turned in his arms, kissing him softly. I love you, even though you're sentimental and refuse to admit it. I love you too, even though you're reckless and refuse to stay out of danger. They held each other as the moon rose over Thornridge, painting everything in silver light. Two mates who'd survived prophecy, war, and impossible odds. Two wolves who'd proven that love was stronger than curses, that sacrifice meant giving from the heart rather than giving up life, and that sometimes the coldest nights led to the warmest futures. Kelly had been meant to die in the snow. Instead, she'd lived. And in living, she'd saved thousands. That was legacy enough for anyone.